All right, seventh graders. In Unit 7, we are moving on to solving more complicated equations. So in Unit 7, Part 1, we're going to talk about two-step equations, and then we'll move on to more difficult ones from there. So when we're talking about solving two-step equations, we're always going to, our first step is always going to be adding or subtracting. So we'll always add or subtract first, and then we'll multiply or divide. Remember, the goal is always the same, though. The goal is to get the variable by itself. So before we actually look at solving equations, we're going to look at how to tell whether or not something is a solution. So if you look at our first section, it says checking possible solutions. It says tell whether the given value of the variable is a solution of the equation. So for number 1, our equation is negative 15 equals negative 3x plus 15. And then we're trying to test and see if x equals 5 will be a solution. So when you have problems like this, all that means is that we're going to plug in 5 for x and see if it works out. So I'm going to write negative 15 equals negative 3, and then I plug in 5 for x, and then plus 15. So now I want to work this out. So negative 3 times 5 is negative 15, and then negative 15 plus 15 is 0. So I know that that is not a solution. In order for it to be a solution, I have to have the same thing on both sides of the equal sign. So if you look over here at number 2, our equation is x over 5 minus 6 equals negative 2, and we're testing to see if x equals 20 is a solution. So I'm going to plug in 20 where I see x, so I'll have 20 over 5 minus 6 equals negative 2. 20 divided by 5 is 4. 4 minus 6 is negative 2, so I get negative 2 equals negative 2. So that's my solution, and that works. So 3 and 4, I'm going to leave to you guys to figure out. And then if you move down, we're actually going to look at solving some two-step equations here. So I'll go through a couple of examples, and then I'll let you guys do the other ones. I'm going to start by doing number 2, because I think it's actually a little bit harder than number 1. So I'll do number 2, and then you go back to do number 1. So we're going to start by boxing and rewriting, like always. And I'm going to come to the side with the variable, which is the right side of the equal sign. Over on the right side, I have 6x minus 16. Remember, the goal is to get the variable by itself. So my first step is always going to be to add or subtract. So in this case, I'm going to add 16, so I have a minus 16. If I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. Negative 10 plus 16 is 6, so I get 6 equals 6x. Because negative 16 and positive 16 cancel out. So I added, now I need to multiply or divide. Since it's 6x, which is multiplication, I do division to undo that. So 6 divided by 6 is 1. 6x divided by 6 just gives me x. So my solution is x equals 1. They want you to check the solution, so in order to do that, remember I'm just going to plug in what I get for the value of x. So I plug in a 1 right there. As I work that out, I'm going to get 6 minus 16. 6 minus 16 is negative 10, so it works. I know I did it correctly. So I'll let you guys do number 1. I'm going to come down here and do number 2. So again, the first thing I want to do is box and rewrite. So I'm going to have 3 equals x over 25 plus 6. I go to the side of the variable, which is the right side in this case. I have a positive 6. So I know I need to subtract to move that 6 over. 3 minus 6 is negative 3. Then on the right side, I'm left with x over 25 because these cancel out. X over 25 on a fraction needs division, so to undo that, I need to multiply. Multiply by the denominator here, multiply both sides by 25. So 25 times negative 3 is negative 75. These 25 cancel out, so I get x equals negative 75. I need to check that solution, so I'm going to plug in negative 75 for x, plus negative 75 over 25 plus 6. Divide that, I get negative 3 plus 6. I get 3 equals 3, so I know I've done it correct. I'll leave number 4 for you guys, so I can remember 1 and 4 in that section. Moving on to the back side, it says solving equations with negative coefficients. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit more difficult. So looking at number 1, again, the first thing I'm going to do is box and rewrite. So 25 minus 3x equals negative 8. I go to the side with the variable, which is the left side. I have a 25 that I need to move over, a positive 25. So in order to move that, I'm going to subtract it from both sides. So those will cancel out. I have negative 3x. Make sure you notice this negative comes down with it. I have minus 8 minus 25, which is negative 33. Now I have negative 3 times x. So to get x by itself, I need to divide both sides by negative 3. So I'll get x equals positive 11. I can plug that in to check it. So I have 25 minus 3 times 11 equals negative 8. So I have 25 minus 33 equals negative 8. And that works out. So my answer is correct. Number 2, I'll leave to you guys. I'm going to come down here and look at number 3. Again, my first step is going to be to take the box and rewrite this. So negative 14 equals negative 22 minus x over 3. I go to the side with the variable, which is the right side. I have a negative 22, so I need to add 22 to both sides to move it over. Negative 14 plus 22 is positive 8. And then on this side, I have negative x minus x over 3. Again, notice that the negative comes down with it. So now I need to get x divided by 3 is division, so I need to multiply. I'm going to multiply by negative 3. So negative 3 times 8 is negative 24. And then on the right side, the 3's cancel out and the negatives cancel out, so I'm just left with x. When you're asked to solve an equation, you're always solving for the positive version of the variable. So I have to make sure I have positive x here. I can't have negative x. If I have negative x, I'm not done. I've got to keep going. Right? So I'll leave 2 and 4 to you guys on that section. All right, moving on, we have writing and solving a two-step equation. So we have a couple of word problem examples. The first one says 15 people volunteer for a park cleanup. The number of volunteers increases by 7 people each month for several months. After how many months will there be 50 volunteers? So we're starting with 15. We're going to add 7 each month. And then the question says, after how many months will there be 50 volunteers? So we want 50, and I'm looking for how many months. I know I have 7 per month, so my variable is going to be right there, 7. So now I need to get x by itself. So the first thing I need to do is move this 15 over. Since it's positive 15, I'm going to subtract it from both sides. So I'll get 7x equals 35. And then since it's 7 times x, I need to divide to get x by itself. I get x equals 5. Now it's a word problem, so I know I need a unit on there. So it's 5 months. Alright, I'll let you guys try number 2, and then the problems at the bottom are reviewed. That's it for Unit 7, Part 1.